Loren Herzog was born on the 8th of December 1965 in Linden, California, and Wesley Howard Shermantine was born on the 24th of February 1966, also in Linden, California. Linden was a small farming town less than 100 miles from San Francisco and had as little as 2,000 residents in total. A place where everybody knew everybody. As both boys were the same age and lived on the same street, they soon became friends. They spent a lot of time outside in the rural areas and played games together. They did not seem to make any other friends. Shermantine was from a relatively wealthy family, and his father often gave him gifts. Herzog's family were poorer, and home life was not as good as when it was when he was at Sherman's house. They gave each other nicknames. They knew each other affectionately as Slim and Wes. Wes's father often took the boys on days out fishing and also hunting, which was a personal favourite of Wes's father. The boys spent all of high school together, and eventually when they left under a cloud of bullying and drug abuse, they moved in together, and this was said to be the start of their crime spree. During this time, Shermantine was married for a short while. This marriage was violent, and after a terrible incident when he hurt his wife while holding their child, the marriage was over, and his wife ran away, not to be found by her bully husband. The men continued to harm people and steal and commit many misdemeanours due to their drug taking, and as they were not caught for these crimes, they felt almost superhero-like and invincible. This is when their crimes took a more serious turn. The men often frequented the Linden Inn, a local bar which was owned by John van der Heyden. His young daughter Cindy worked there most evenings and knew the two men relatively well. They had a reputation for being brutes, and people were scared of them. On the night of November the 14th, 1998, Cindy left the bar with the men. It was said that she had asked the pair to supply her with drugs. After John tried to contact Cindy, to no avail, he reported her missing, and a hunt began. Investigators focused on Herzog and Wes, and in January 1999, Shermantine became #1 suspect for the Sheriff's Department. And as blood was found in the car belonging to him, while they awaited DNA confirmation of the blood's origin, they questioned Herzog. This is where it all began to unravel for the pair, and information of their horrific crimes came to light. Herzog, who in fact had a very low IQ, was coming down off the drugs, spilled to the authorities information during a 17-hour interview, which would eventually lead to a criminal conviction of his best friend. He told them about the murder of Howard King and Paul Kavanagh back in 1984, where the two men were in their car about to go hunting when their own rifle was turned on them and both were shot dead at point-blank range. They were robbed of what little they had and just left. A crime which had been unsolved until this time. Also, in 1985, young 16-year-old Chevelle Wheeler went missing after playing truant from school. Wes had been the authorities' suspect in her disappearance, but as no evidence was found until the 1999 questioning of Herzog, he was allowed to get on with his life. It was the discovery of her blood in his hunting cabin, matching with DNA profiling, which was his eventual undoing. Herzog also confirmed that they were being hunted in Utah for the death and robbery of a hunter called Henry Howe. He was shot dead in his car on Highway 88 in Alpine County. He was also shot with his own gun. This crime was also unsolved until Herzog spilled the information. He told them information which had not been released, so it was confirmed that the murder count was now at 4. Also, Herzog gave details of the murder of a man called Robin Armtrout. All these murders were put on Wes. Herzog claimed he was a mere witness to these murders and that he was scared of his long-term friend, and this is why he could not say anything to anyone. Time had run out for Wes, and his arrest was imminent. He was apprehended on the 17th of March 1999 and charged with the murders of Cindy, Howell, Kavanagh, King and Armtrout. 5 counts of murder. He also tried to pass the buck to Herzog, stating that if he was able to give all of this information about the murders, that he must have been the one that committed them, and stated that he only saw Cindy briefly on the night she went missing. A trial was set and a case was answered for the 5 counts of murder and other drug-related crimes. Herzog believed that after the information he passed on, that he would be set free for his parts in the crimes. But this was not to be the case. Wes was found guilty to 4 of the murders and sentenced to the death penalty, which could have been removed if he told them where they could find the bodies. He refused this bargain and was held on death row at the prolific San Quentin State Prison. Herzog, to his surprise, was charged with the 5 counts of murder and was found guilty of 3. These were the murders of Cindy, Kavanagh and King. He was also charged with an accessory to murder for Howe and completely acquitted for the murder of Armtrout. He was given 78 years in prison, meaning he would almost certainly die there. The case was not over, and in 2004 an appeal was launched on behalf of Herzog, stating that his confessions were not given under competent mind, and pled the fact that his low IQ stopped him from understanding what he had done and the severity of confessing. It was said that the police took advantage of his state of mind and coerced his confessions. Shockingly, a retrial was ordered, but he didn't get to go for the retrial as he made a plea bargain for voluntary manslaughter in the Cindy case and only an accessory to the other murders. He was charged with this and his sentence was reduced to 14 years, with the 6 that he had already served to be taken into account. He was released from prison after 11 years in September 2010, after extensive appeals to not allow this from the victims' families. Lots of rules were placed on Herzog. He was not allowed further than 150 foot from his trailer and was under house arrest for a majority of the day. He was not allowed any visitors and was not required to take work. Another sinister turn to this case was to happen in 2012. A bounty hunter by the name of Leonard Padilla visited Wes in prison and offered him a considerable amount of money to name the place where he had buried his victims. After he agreed, Padilla went to see Herzog, who was residing in a caravan just outside the prison gates, to tell him of the development. Obviously scared by this revelation and what could come out in the DNA and forensics of the bodies they could discover, he committed suicide in his trailer. Wes continued to give names of sites where people were buried. It was said that he was jealous that Herzog was free. The sites he revealed were forensically searched and many more bodies were discovered. Cindy and Chevelle's remains had been found at one of these sites referred to as the Boneyard, and they have since been laid to rest. A further site in Linden was searched and over 1,000 human bone parts were found, and the FBI's evidence recovery team was sent to another site, and the remains of 2 teenagers from California were discovered. They were named as Kimberly Ann Billy and Joanne Hobson, both missing from 1984 and 1985. One of the girls was pregnant at the time. Wes was let out of prison for a short time to lead the authorities to further sites where he said victims were buried. This was said to be incorrect evidence from Wes, and he refused to speak any further about the sites or victims. Families were enraged at the information that the authorities would not search any other sites that Wes gave them, as they thought that he was stringing them along. But the families obviously wanted closure for their families, and in 2018, the Speed Freak Killers case, which was what the 2 men were named due to their meth use, was reopened, and more sites were to be discovered and searched. The police have said that the Speed Freak Killers could have been responsible for a further 24 or more murders. There was a long gap between 1985 and 1998 where they had been known to kill. Did they kill during this time? It is said that they had, but we are yet to know of any more victims to be named as theirs. One of the duo died, knowing he could have been charged with more crimes. The other remains on death row, quiet and not revealing any more sites for the authorities to search. Wes had spoken to a reporter, claiming that there was another man involved with the killings, and he claimed that they as a trio had in fact killed up to 70 people. This is yet to be substantiated. Thank you for your support. Please leave a like if you have enjoyed our story, and please hit the subscribe button if you would like more crime stories from Crime Busters. And I look forward to reading your comments.